A few years ago, in my school and college life, I was an intern. I still remember a small incident. Sudeep Ranjan Dev was one of the best intern of our generation. He studied in Dhaka Medical College. I haven't seen him for a long time. Sudeep has become a great doctor. One day, after the intern, I gave him an order. We never say the word Allah in the intern speech. It was in the 90s. We just try to avoid the word. And when we couldn't avoid it, we used to say Ishar Kimba Shrishti Karta. I have never heard in my life that any Muslim says Allah is Ishar Kimba Shrishti Karta. The one who is not a Muslim doesn't say Shrishti Karta. He says Allah. But no one says Allah as a word in the intern speech. Sudeep told me that there is no problem if I say Allah in the intern. But if you say it, it will be unsanctified. And he was right. I didn't have that freedom. At least, I never felt that I have that freedom. It was so stifling in the 90s. I can't believe it now. In the society, there were some rules that we had to obey. Now I think it is not so rigid in the country. But now the problem is very serious. You can't even say a word in the foreign language. I have tried to understand the shame of Bengali people with the Muslim identity. If I don't take it personally, take Islam as a concept, then it would have been a disaster. But in many ways, it is an Islamic moral code. And it is happy. But it can't be said in the public sphere. It can't be owned by many big and powerful people. In the Muslims of Bangladesh, this concept was very widespread at one time. So, I want to say something about the culture of Bangladesh. My name is Fayam Abdusalam. I think I am a writer. At the age of 18, I didn't know how to navigate this culture war. How to balance it. How to make it easy. Fortunately, I have never wanted any validation from a publisher or an establishment. All this seems like a circus to me. You are so tribal. It seems like an estimation. What is the impact of my insistence on the identity of Bangladesh on you? How does it influence you? How does it make you a small provincial person? The cultural elites of Bangladesh want to define culture by banning religion. They are looking for a cultural space where Islam and religion do not exist. They feel comfort in this. They believe that banning religion will be equally beneficial for all people. Therefore, by putting religion in the place of faith and putting it in the personal sphere, everyone will be safe in the public sphere. But Muslims hide their Muslim identity and create a patriarchal pressure inside them. And the cultural elites are not bothered about the fact that they are not able to reach their goal. 90% of the educated people in Bangladesh have lost their confidence in their religion. And they have become engrossed in anti-Islam. The cultural elites of Bangladesh cannot even think about it. Let me ask you a simple question. Hypothetical question. Nothing personal. What would you rather be? Would you rather be a Bengali scholar or an Urdu or Hindi scholar? If being a scholar in Urdu is similar to being a book writer in Bengali, then I think it is done. And our cultural elites are responsible for this loss. They have given you a confirmation like Everest in your small head. And they have gone so deep into it that there is no place for common sense. Mr. Hussein Ahmed said something like this. He said that they are proud of any religious rituals. But when they are in Islam, they are very unhealthy. They think that language gives birth to a culture. At least language is the root of culture. This thought, especially in the context of India, is fundamentally a mistake for me. I will tell you why later. Look, culture is not the byproduct of your language. It is the byproduct of your moral code. For the sake of the First World War, Europeans used the word Christendom to identify themselves in a lot of literature. It is not visible now. Europeans do not speak the same language. With the Protestant North, the Catholic South do not speak the same language, do not eat the same food, or do not live the same way. But they understood that the real product of European culture was Christian moral code. And this is simply undeniable. See, culture is the problem of a people's meaningful work. Now, if you do this under the open sky, the whole nation will do it. Even then, you will not call it culture. Because doing this is not a meaningful work. So, do you do meaningful work? Who tells you to do this work? Who tells you that this work is meaningful? It is your moral code. But our cultured people say that this moral code must be followed to make Bengali Muslims their culture. Yes, our language, thoughts, genetics, practice, all these influence our culture. There is no doubt. But what should be done? Your language does not give you the answer to this question. Your moral code gives you the answer. Now see the problem of Bengali Muslims. Our Sikh urban Muslims are reluctant to assert their religion in the public sphere. The main reason for this is a culture that is shared by two completely different worldviews. And in the last 60 years, the cultural elite of this country are saying to Muslims, it doesn't matter. Religion is not real. Hindus and Muslims are speaking in Bengali, so everyone is speaking in the same language. Countless people of this country have believed this today. But to make this story palatable, a bullshit statement is being made in the name of 1,000 years. Which means, no one really knows. But the worldview of Hindus and Muslims and their theological assumptions are very different. And this is irreconcilable. You'd be fooling yourself if you think otherwise. Now, I'm not saying this difference should be weaponized to divide the two groups. Or this difference somewhat hinders the peaceful coexistence of Hindus and Muslims. Not at all. However, denial of this difference is just stupid. It helps no one. Think about it. A Muslim's metaphysical vision is to go to war. He thinks that if he does good, he will go to war. And if he does bad, he will go to hell. He knows that the companions of the Prophet were not very good people in their first life. But they became the best of human beings. So, at some point in life, Allah has mercy on them. Meaning, there is a possibility in life. If he commits a sin, he will repent alone. He has an agency as an individual. The mind of a Muslim is the mind of an explorer. Why? Understand this. The authority of a bad deed is proportional to him. But the reward of a good deed is disproportional. Meaning, if you do a good deed in the world, Allah will reward you with a 100-fold reward in the future. Non-linear. The reason why Muslims show irrational exuberance when it comes to doing what Islam tells them to do. In the 12th century, in the dry areas of Central Asia, how many rational people lived in Bengal? Think about it. Almost the entire country was full of jungles. It was hot and humid. Almost half of the landmass was submerged in water for half the year. There was no such wealth then. Agriculture was not done in half the country. There was no law on gold that you should strike coins. But why did they come? In the 14th century, why did the people of Yemen, Shah Jalal, come into power? Because Muslims think that if you are a Muslim alone, it will not work. You have to try to bring someone else in the same way. This is your duty. And if Allah is satisfied with this duty, He will reward you with a 100-fold reward. Muslims are risk takers. Their religion has made them empire builders. Now, I am not saying that Muslims came to India only to spread religion. But Muslims' worldview was an integral part of it. It was never adequate on its own. But it was certainly a necessary component and a big one. Muslims think that if Allah gives them a chance, it is for their metaphysical destination. Muslims are explorers in nature. You will get to know the value of their life through their religion. Muslims of Bangladesh are known as Arbai, Shamsur Rahman, Shamskrito, Shabtashri Rahman, Farsi Farzana Rahman, English Mati Rahman, Russian Tanya Rahman. Bertrand Russell was the most celebrated atheist in the 20th century. You will get to know the name of a Bengali Muslim, Muhammad Russell. But I have never heard the name of a Bengali Brahmin in my life. It is unprecedented. In our national life, only one instrument has nurtured the risk-taking mentality of Muslims. That is trade and commerce. Broadly speaking, it is the upper class. But you will not find any risk-taker in the world like entrepreneurs in Bangladesh. You will not understand anything about pharmaceuticals. But you will have to take that business. I know one person who went to Korea in the 90s to do a blue-collar job. He has given 700 crores of garments 10 years ago. I have seen another person who is now a billionaire. But in the late 80s, his father simply sold his clothes in the shop. Such a bureaucratic bureaucracy that makes it difficult for businessmen to do business on a daily basis. Those who are interested in the rest, who will be interested in the future. Overcoming them, what they have achieved in the last 50 years is nothing short of a miracle. The businessmen of Bangladesh have succeeded despite the government being there. Not because of the government. About 1 crore Bangladeshis have left the country. One of the major reasons for this is the risk-taking mentality. We cannot exploit the risk-taking mentality of Muslims in any part of the world except for the middle class. Hindu metaphysical destination. But the worldview is fundamentally different. How? The worldview is fundamentally different.